day everyone. So I am Michelle Aquino and today I'm going to report the disadvantaged children. Can you please read the disadvantaged children?
The term disadvantage serves
serves
as
as
a
a
broad
broad
classification
classification
for
for
individuals
individuals or
or
demographics
demographics facing
facing
systemic
systemic
barriers.
barriers.
They are generally characterized by three main indicators.
indicators.
First,
Is
physical or
our
mental
mental
vulnerabilities.
vulnerabilities,
Second, economic
economic
deprivation.
deprivation,
And lastly, political
political
marginalization.
marginalization.
Yeah, thank you. So from the word itself, disadvantage. Ito yung nagsaserve sa broad classification for our children. And they are generally characterized by three main indicators. And the first one is physical or mental vulnerabilities. So, dito sa una natin, sila yung mga batang uh, who deals with specific cognitive or physical disabilities. And for the next one is yung economic deprivation. And sila naman yung derive of essential financial securities and material resources. So the next one is yung political marginalization. And sila naman yung lacking institutional power, representation, or societal influence. So, paano nga ba ito nagwo-work sa Philippines? Despite of the efforts of our government, na magkaroon tayo ng inclusive education for our children, meron pa rin tayong mga poor children, rural, and migrant families in the Philippines na who remain severely disadvantaged. Poverty, a lack of infrastructure, and social exclusion means that many of these children have no or only limited access to high education. So, next one naman is yung challenges implementing. So, marami tayong challenges sa pag-implement nito. Una na nga is yung barrier to enrollment and retention. Maraming nagsasabi na free na yung education sa Pilipinas, pero yung public elementary schooling charges no tuition, pero marami pa rin tong hidden cost. Katulad na lang ng uniforms, school supplies, and yung budget or allowance ng mga bata. And next one is geographic isolation. Rural and slum areas frequently suffer from a shortage of local schools, forcing children to endure exhausting journeys on foot just to attend class. And then the next one is economic survival versus schooling. Alam naman natin na hindi legal or ipinagbabawal na magkaroon ng child labor, pero marami pa rin yung gumagawa nito sa Pilipinas. Isa na dito yung kakulangan sa household income. And the next one naman is digital divide. It crises like the pandemic exposed severe inequalities, lack of electricity, yung stable internet, and gadgets completely cut off marginalized youth from remote learning. And the next one naman is substandard educational qualities. And deficient infrastructure. Public school contend with severe resources deficit, including overcrowded classroom, outdated material, and a shortage of certified teachers. So, yung next one naman is deficit in personalized support. Impoverished students rarely get the remedial attention they need, leaving nonprofits and aid organization to step in with tutoring and scholarships. So the next one is neglect of holistic growth. Ito yung creative, art-based, and play-centric education is largely and accessible to poor communities, stifling well-rounded personal development. So next naman is vulnerability of rural and migrant youth and rural children. Marami tayong mga bata or estudyante na as early as elementary school, umaalis na sila sa school or hindi na sila tumutuloy sa pag-aaral nila. Ito ay dahil sa kailangan nilang tulungan yung pamilya nila sa field or maybe sa household kasi nga instead of going to school na masyadong malayo or hindi sila accessible to our students, tumutulong na lang sila sa pamilya nila sa loob ng bahay or sa field. And next one naman is children of migrants and internally displaced person. Migrant children, which is example from informal settlements or family resettled after natural disaster, are particularly at risk of losing touch with school system. So language and cultural barriers make integration more difficult, especially to children from indigenous or ethnic minorities. And let us proceed naman sa next one, which is adult learners. So, ano nga ba yung adult learners? An adult learner refers to any individual age 25 or older who actively participates in educational pursuits, alternatively known as lifelong, mature, or non-traditional students. They re-enter education outside of the conventional timeline. So, paano nga ba ito nag-work sa Pilipinas, yung adult learners? So, sa Pilipinas, nag-work yung adult learner in a way na yung government natin, binibigyan sila ng program such as yung ni-report kanina, which is Alternative Learning System or ALS. The ALS is the government's primary framework for out-of-school youth and adult learners. It allows learners to study at their own pace, time, and location. Meron tayong two types ng ALS. Number one is yung Basic Literacy Program. They are the one na tinuturuang magbasa, magsulat, or nung basic arithmetic or math, sila yung mga adult na zero to minimal of prior education. Next one naman is yung A&E program or Accreditation and Equivalency Program. A recognized alternative to formal schooling, adults who pass ANE test receive a certification that is equivalent to formal elementary or high school diploma, allowing them to pursue higher education or formal employment. And then, next one naman is meron din tayong program which is yung TESDA or Vocational and Enterprise Training. The Technical Education and Skill Development Authority or TESDA provides community-based and enterprise development training for adults looking to shift career or start their own micro business. And yan. And then, courses range from culinary arts and carpentry to computer programming and agriculture. And meron din tayong higher education and professional development or yung CHED. Sila yung mga adult na gustong makatapos sa college. For adults looking to pursue college degrees or professional enrichment. Several university partner with the Commission on Higher Education or yung CHED. Many college offer continuing professional development or CPD courses, diploma programs, and modular or online learning schemes that grant academic credit for professional life experience. And let's move on to challenges implementing. So, ano nga ba yung challenges for our adult learners? Let's proceed to number 1, which is underfunding. Since hindi na nagpo-focus yung government sa ating adult learners, our government give low budget allocation results in severe deficit of dedicated adult learning centers and modern teaching equipment. And then, logistical delays. Government programs like ALS regularly suffer from the bottleneck in distributing updated modules and learning materials. So, since nga hindi nagpo-focus sa kanila yung government, hindi na sila masyadong nadidistributan ng updated modules and so which means hindi na sila napofokusan sa learning nila. And then let's proceed to next one, which is socio-economic pressures. Compounding responsibilities. Adult student must continuously juggle intensive coursework with full-time jobs and family care. So, financial and geographic barriers. Commuting costs to regional centers heavily penalize impoverished adult learners living in isolated areas. So, sila yung masyadong malalayo sa centers. And then, next one naman is yung psychosocial and generational roadblocks. Yung gap age or age gap, older students frequently experience alienation or intimidation when placed in learning environments alongside with younger peers. And next one naman is yung imposter syndrome. Deep-seated anxiety regarding outdated foundational skill make it difficult for adults to adapt modern technology or academic English. And next one naman, or the last one is policy disparity, institutional bias. It is the national education policy and spending are overwhelming skewed towards traditional, youth-focused schooling, living adult literacy, initiative perpetually under-supported. And that is all. Thank you.
Good day everyone. Let's proceed Madrasa Alive. Guys, can you read the definition of Madrasa Alive?
Madrasa Alive stands for Arabic Language and Islamic Values Education. It is a program in the Philippines that helps Muslim students learn about their religion, culture, and language while continuing their formal education. The program was created to support Muslim learners in understanding Islam more deeply and practicing good values in their daily lives.
Sa programa na ito, natututo ang mga students kung paano magbasa at umintindi ng Arabic, especially sa pagbabasa ng Quran. Tinuturuan din sila ng important Islamic values tulad ng respect, honesty, patience, at kanilang culture. Mahalaga ang Madrasa Alive dahil nakakatulong ito sa mga Muslim learners na mapanatili ang kanilang religious at cultural identity habang nakakakuha ng quality education. Paano naman po ito nag-work sa Philippines? Ang Madrasa Alive ay supported ng DepEd at kadalasang implemented sa mga lugar na maraming Muslim communities, especially sa Mindanao. Maaari itong makita sa public school, private, Islamic schools, at community learning centers. Ang mga teachers sa Alive classes ay tinatawag na asatis. Sila ang nagtuturo ng Arabic language at Islamic values. Sa ilalim ng program na ito, tuloy pa rin ang regular academic subjects ng students habang sabay nilang pinag-aaralan ang Islamic education. Ngayon naman, pag-usapan po natin ng types of Madrasa Alive. Guys, can you read?
A. Traditional or weekend madrasa. B. Developmental or formal madrasa. C. Standard private madrasa.
Traditional or weekend madrasa. Ito ang pinaka-common type ng madrasa kung saan ang classes ay ginagawa tuwing weekends o after school hours, usually sa mosque o community centers. Dito natututo ang students ng basic Arabic letters, pagbabasa ng parts ng Quran at proper behavior based on Islamic teachings. Pero may mga challenges din ito tulad ng lack of classrooms and learning materials, limited financial support, kulang sa trained teachers at irregular attendance ng students dahil weekends lang ang classes. Pangalawa naman ay ang developmental or format madrasa. Mas organized at structured ito dahil kasama na ang madrasa subject sa regular school schedule sa ilang public schools. Dito natututo ang students ng Arabic language at Islamic values habang nasa regular school setting. Ang mga teachers ay sumusunod sa proper curriculum at may training din. However, may mga challenges pa rin tulad ng shortage of trained asatids, insufficient learning materials at limited funding para sa expansion ng program. Pangatlo ay ang standard private madrasa. Isa itong full-time private Islamic school kung saan parehong academic at religious education ang tinuturo. Bukod sa Islamic studies at Arabic, nag-aaral din ng students ng math, science, English, at Pilipino. Ang challenges naman dito ay mataas na tuition and operational costs, limited access para sa low-income families, at kakulangan sa facilities at qualified teachers. Next, Special Interest Program. Definition. A special interest program is a structured educational program designed to develop the specific talents, interests, and abilities of students. These programs provide specialized learning experiences beyond the standard curriculum. They focus on areas such as arts, sports, journalism, foreign languages, science, and special education. How does it help the teachers? Ang special interest program ay isang educational program. Sa Philippines implemented ito sa selected public and private school under DepEd. Ang mga students na may potential o interest sa specific field ay dumadaan sa screening bago makasali. Types of special interest program. Una, Special Program in Arts o SPA. Focus ito sa pagde-develop ng talent sa dance, music, theater arts, visual arts, and creative writing. Ang common challenges dito ay kakulangan sa facilities, equipment, budget, at qualified art teachers. Pangalawa ay Special Program in Sports o SPS. Ang goal nito ay mahasa ang athletic skills ng students habang nagpapatuloy sila sa academics. Challenges nito ang insufficient sports facilities, risk of injuries at hirap sa pagbabalance ng academics at sports activities. Pangatlo ay ang Special Program in Journalism o SPJ. Dinedevelop nito ang skills ng students sa writing, broadcasting, editing at campus journalism. Ilan sa challenges nito ay lack of updated technology, limited training, opportunities at time management issues ng students. Sunod naman ang Special Program in Foreign Language, SPFN. Nagpo-focus ito sa advanced learning ng foreign languages tulad ng Spanish, Japanese, French, Mandarin at Korean. Challenges nito ang kakulangan sa qualified language teachers at limited opportunities para ma-practice ang language sa real-life situations. Kasama rin dito ang Special Science Program o SSP. Nakatuon ito sa science research, mathematics at technology education para ma-develop ang students, scientific thinking at problem-solving skills. Ang challenges dito ay kakulangan sa laboratory equipment, mataas na cost ng experiments at pressure sa students dahil advanced ang lessons. At lastly, ang Special Education Program o SPED. Ang programa na ito ay para sa learners with disabilities at special educational needs upang mabigyan sila ng equal access to quality education. Pero may challenges pa rin tulad ng shortage of SPED teacher, lack of assistive devices at inadequate facilities.
So good day everyone. Today we will talk about the quality differentiated instruction. So ano nga ba ito? According to Carol Ann Tomlinson in year 1999, differentiated instruction is a way of teaching in which teachers proactively modify curriculum teaching methods, resources, learning activities, and student products to address the needs of individual students and or small groups of students to maximize the learning opportunity for each student in the classroom. So, ang quality differentiated instruction, it focuses on the way of teaching method na in which to address the learner's needs in the classroom. So dito, mapapagbatayan naman natin dito yung mga activities na ini-implement na pinapagawa sa mga learners in which it focuses on collaboration. And doon bibigay sila ng mga ideas and creativity doon mismo. So, how does it work in the Philippines? So, dito naman, in the Philippines, quality differentiated instruction is mandate under the Department of Education to address the different needs readiness and learning styles of students in classrooms. It ensures the equity and inclusion of all students to give an opportunity to achieve the same learning opportunity through competencies in varied methods. So dito naman sa Philippines, it under siya ng Department of Education in which to address yung learners needs ng mga mag-aaral. Depending sa mga quality instructions and teaching methods na ginagamit dun sa classroom mismo. So ganun po. So, the teacher tailors their lessons across the 4 core elements. At ano-ano nga ba yun? Unang-una, yung content. Ano nga ba ang nilalaman ng content na dapat malaman ng mga mag-aaral o dapat matutunan ng mga students? Pangalawa dito, yung process. How student makes sense of the content. Dito, nagkakaroon naman ng process of learning. Ano nga ba ang purpose nito? O ano nga ba ang nagsisilbi ito sa content ng lesson na ito? Yung pangatlo naman, yung product. How student demonstrates what they have learned, especially sa mga reflection, kung ano yung mga natutunan nila mismo, paano nila napapakita ito through self, or paano nila ito na-apply in different situation. And lastly naman, yung sa learning environment, in which dito nagpo-focus yung classroom setup natin. Nandito na yung mga teachers and learners sa inside the classroom. So, ganun po. Ano nga ba yung challenges implementing ng quality differentiated instruction? So, dito naman, ang challenges na na-implement na ito, una-una yung time-intensive planning. Dahil dito yung mga educators, nagkakaroon sila ng time pressure, nauubos sila ng oras sa paggawa ng mga lesson plans, yung mga learning objectives, tapos yung mga content na ibibigay doon o ituturo doon sa mga learners. Pangalawa dito yung resource constraints, which it has limited na mga resource na magagamit ng mga educators para may provide doon sa mga learners, in which magkakaroon ito ng conflict sa education. Pangatlo naman yung classroom management. Ano naman ito? Dito naman, nagkakaroon ito ng oversee doon sa mga classrooms wherein doon sa mga pinapagawang projects, activities, or other related subject matter doon sa education mismo or inside the classroom. And lastly, yung teacher training. Dito mostly yung mga educators are not well trained or not all trained well. Because of that, dito nagkakaroon ng lack of train ng mga educators na kung saan paano nila ito maituturo doon sa mga learners mismo. So, ganun po. At dito naman, ang panghuli ay ang homeschool learning or distance learning. Ano nga ba ito? At ano nga ba ang pinagkaiba nito? Sa homeschool naman, ito ay tinatawag na home education. It is an education method situated in home rather than an institution designed to that purpose. So dito naman sa homeschooling, it focuses on yung mga parents work as a teacher or work as a tutor. Na kung saan tinuturuan nila yung mga anak upang matuto kahit sa bahay lang. Pangalawa naman dito, yung distance learning, at home learning, school at home, distance learning, virtual learning, e-learning, or remote learning, all refer to learning done via teleconferences or video calls. Instead of the regular classroom setup, teachers will implement the lessons via video conferencing during the day. Ito ay pinaka-common sa atin na ginagamit ngayon, yung distance learning na kung saan nagkakaroon tayo ng online class setup, although kahit nasa bahay tayo ay nandun pa rin yung yung procedure ng ating pagkatuto or yung learning process. Dahil dito sa through via teleconferences like yung mga ginagamit na app which commonly used na ginagamit Gmeet, ginagamit natin siyang pang online class na kung saan nandun yung teacher and students na doon nagkakaroon ng learning process. So, ano nga ba yung pinagkaiba ng homeschooling tsaka yung distance learning? Ang homeschooling naman, it focuses sa parents work as a tutor or as a teacher. Pero hindi ito nagkakaroon ng process dun sa sa learning progress ng isang bata o yung kanilang mga anak. However, dun naman sa distance learning, it is more formal in school. Although kahit nasa bahay kayo, ay nandun pa rin yung setup ng classroom nyo through online. Or gumagamit kayo ng isang digital app na kung saan makakapag-meet up kayo through online. Or yun, video calls. So, how does it work in the Philippines? So, dito naman tayo mag-focus. So, dito naman, in the Philippines, homeschooling is one of the alternative delivery modes offered by the Department of Education, in which it provides learning with access to formal education while staying in the out-of-school environment. Authorized parents, guardians, or tutors, will take as a tutors or mag-handle sila bilang isang mag-tutor or bilang maging guro na magtuturo sa kanilang mga bata. So dito naman, this is the best advantages na isang program na ito, which is yung homeschooling, na kung saan nagdadaan sila ng oras sa kanilang mga bata upang turuan ito, although kahit nasa bahay lang sila. On the other hand, yung distance learning naman, dito naman nagkakaroon ng 3 types of delivery modes. At ano-ano nga ba yun? Una dito, yung online distance learning or yung online class mismo. Synchronous ang tinatawag dun, di ba? So dito naman, yung mga students, nagkakaroon sila ng online setup classrooms through via teleconferencing calls o yung mga video calls na ginagamit natin mismo upang makapag-setup ng online class. Pangalawa dito, yung modular distance learning. Dito naman, may hawak sila ng mga printed-based modules or printed-based learning materials na kung saan it focuses on self-learning method na yung mga estudyante ay tinuturuan nila mismo yung sarili nila based doon sa module na nakalaan doon, especially sa mga content and yung information na nakalaan dito sa subject matter mismo. And lastly, dito naman yung TV or radio based instruction. Usually yung mga DepEd TV, mga sa TV naman nandun yung DepEd TV na kung saan yung mga related modules na binigay sa iyo ay pwede mo ito mahanap through television at pwede kang matuto doon na kung saan may isang guro na magtuturo and yung mga related modules na makikita mo ay maintindihan mo lalo instead na nagkakaroon ka ng self-learning ganun mismo. These delivery modes allow students to learn on their own using digital printed modules or in real time via digital setup. So, however, ano naman yung challenges na na-implement nito? Una-una dito, yung challenges na implement dito sa homeschool at ano-ano nga ba yung mga yon. Una-una dito yung limited socialization. This is one of the most recognized na disadvantage na nakikita ng bata mismo na kung saan nagkakaroon ito ng lack of interaction kasi nasa bahay nga lang sila mismo, kasama niya yung parents lang na nagtuturo sa kanya and yung bata ay nakikinig din sila mismo. And doon, hindi sila nakaka-experience ng traditional schools setting, which is yung mga activities or yung mga projects na pinapagawa ng mga teachers ay hindi nararanasan ng mga bata dahil nga doon sa setup which is yung homeschool. Pangalawa naman, yung high parental commitment. Dito naman ay marami nilalaan ng oras yung parents na dapat turuan ng kanilang mga anak at ito ay pili lamang. Kung ano man ang topic na may discuss or may turo sa bata ay yun yung dapat matutunan ng isang learner. Pangatlo naman, ito naman yung pinaka-common na nararanasan ng mga bata ngayon. Yung academic gaps or lack of structure. Dito naman sa homeschooling, parang siya, without na curriculum or without learning process na natututunan o natututo ng mga bata, ay nakaka-experience sila ng uneven progress doon sa education, which is ang setup nga lang nila yung homeschool lang. So parents may also struggle na yung mga anak nila to assess their learning outcomes or yung learning progress ng isang bata or yung kanilang mga anak. At yung panghuli naman, ito naman, yung increased parental stress or burnout. Dito nakaka-experience yung kanilang mga parents working as a tutor or as a teacher. Nakaka-experience sila ng mga stress dahil nga doon sa inilalaan nilang oras doon sa kanilang mga anak upang turuan ito. Ito naman, sa face to distance learning or yung mga common challenges na nafe-face ng mga distance learning setup. Una-una dito yung time management. Dito naman, usually yung mga students, nafe-face sila ng cramming or yung mga procrastination. Yung mga activities na ipinagpabukas pa ay nahuhuli sila sa deadline nito. Kaya nagkakaroon sila ng lack of time management. Pangalawa dito, yung lack of communication. Dito yung mga students, kasi syempre ang setup nila which is yung online distance learning lamang. Kaya dito, hindi sila nakikipag-communicate through face to face kasi meron silang nagkakaroon sila ng lack of interaction which is puro na lang sila online class o mga online setup na meetings na pinag-aano ng mga learners. Pangatlo naman, yung technical difficulties. Usually, tayo mismo nakakaranas nito. Kunyari, kapag nawalan ka ng internet, paano ka makaka-attend sa online class, di ba? So, di ka makaka-attend. Unless kung magsasabi ka ng excuse sa iyong teacher. Yun, yung mga devices na ginagamit natin, minsan nagka-crash, di ba, during online class. Nakakaroon nito ng ng lags or other related na nagkakaroon ng unfamiliar software na na-experience ng mga learners. Pangatlo naman, yung mga devices nila which is outdated na at hindi na ito suitable to use as for online video teleconferencing. Kaya dito nagkakaroon ng experience ng mga students na nape-prevent yung progress ng kanilang learning through online setup. Pang-apat naman, ito naman usually common, lack of in-person social interaction. So dito naman yung mga estudyante ay nananatili lamang sila sa kanilang mga bahay o puro na lamang silang online class. Kaya dito nagkakaroon ito ng sense of isolation which is tayo mga mag-aaral o yung mga mag-aaral na nakaka-experience nito is parang naboboard sila. They feel isolated, parang hindi sila nakaka-experience ng interaction, hindi nila nakikita yung mga classmates nila o mga teachers nila, especially sa mga concerns or mga suggestions na dapat ilan ito. Yung panglima, yung pag-adapt ng new learning styles, which is yung mga students na dapat i-require to take responsibility for their education, which led to a conflict. So dito naman, yung traditional based learning na na-experience natin is na kakaroon na lang ito ng online class setup. So dito nagkakaroon ng adjustment, which yung learning progress may be difficult. Especially sa mga students na gustong magkaroon ng suggestion, gusto nilang ilaan yung mga thoughts regarding do sa na-experience nila or na-encounter nilang mga errors, ganun. At pang-anim naman, yung distractions at home. Usually, mga learners nakaka-encounter na ito, na-experience ito sa kanilang mga bahay. At ano-ano nga mga ito. For example, yung mga students, habang sila ay nag-online class or during online class, yung mga vehicles na dumadaan, especially mga motor or mga truck or other vehicles na dumadaan sa kanilang mga bahay. Dito naman ay nadidistract sila sa noise which can cause noise pollution na yung mga estudyante ay hindi sila makapag-focus or concentrate dun sa lesson na tinuturo ng kanilang mga guro. Kaya dito nagkakaroon ito ng problema or other factors yung mga na-encounter ng mga estudyante regarding sa distractions. At lastly naman, yung lack of motivation. Ano naman ito? staying motivated can be difficult in online learning. Pero, kung wala naman itong face-to-face setup or yung mga dapat ilaan yung oras sa kanilang mga eskwelahan, ay wala itong parang hindi nagkakaroon ng social energetic doon sa mga learners na dapat ilaan ito doon sa mga sa mga kamag-aral or sa kanilang mga peers. This can lead to ito ay magsasanhi ng lower engagement, which is parang siya, hindi nila gusto na ganung setup. Mas prefer nila na yung face-to-face, which is nagkakaroon nito ng social interaction, collaboration, encouragement, and yung mga kailangan nilang dapat gawin. So, ganon. Dito, sa homeschooling and distance learning, parehas silang nasa setup ng bahay. However, ang pinagkaiba naman nito sa homeschool or homeschooling ay yung parents ay nagtuturo or work as a teacher or as a tutor doon sa kanilang mga anak. While doon sa distance learning naman, meron naman itong formal school, which is under pa din ito ng education or learning progress ng isang learner or sa estudyante. Kaya dito, pareho silang nakakaranas ng isolated, lack of communication skills, lack of social interaction skills. And so there's our fault. So ganun po siya. In conclusion, this provides an understanding for the types of assessments and their purpose for the advantages and limitations that are used in education. The inclusive and instructional accommodations and implementing challenges faced in the Philippines of specialized education and the alternative system by distance learning for diverse learners needs. So dito naman, each type of programs ay may kanya-kanya silang advantages and limitation and also yung challenges na na-experience or na-implement. And yun, alam na natin kung paano ito nagwo-work sa bansa natin, which is in Philippines, at paano ito nagbe-benefit sa mga teachers or sa mga learners na itong mga types of programs na ito. So, ganun.
That's all. Ikaw na i-end it.
So, yun. That's all. And I hope may natutunan po kayo. Once again, we are the last group of DSED 11M and that's all. Thank you.